I regard myself as a soldier, though a soldier of peace.
Gandhi was in the best of spirits during the voyage.
Mohandas Gandhi, more commonly known as Mahatma, was born in Porbandar, Gujarat in northwest India on October 2, 1869. Gandhi was born into a caste. Growing up in an area heavily influenced by the Jain religion, their philosophy consisted of nonviolence. This led to the Bhagavad Gita of his culture, strongly influencing him along with the works of Leo Tolstoy, a Russian author, and John Ruskin, an artist and writer. His belief was that any use of violence is harmful and that force should be opposed nonviolently. When Gandhi was younger, he traveled to South Africa for legal work. He was abused because he was an Indian who claimed his rights. Seeing that all Indians suffered from discrimination, Gandhi decided to take action. His law assignment in South Africa was for 1 year, but decided to stay for 21 years to work for Indian rights. He began with independence campaigns. Within 5 years, he became the leader of the Indian nationalist movement. In 1919, the British Imperial government introduced the Roll-Up Bill, which limited the unlawful organized oppositions toward the government. He led a campaign called Satyagraha that was successful in restraining ratifications to one of the bills. As soon as riots broke out, Gandhi called off the campaign, then fasted to influence his followers and others to be nonviolent. In the Amritsar massacre, a British general commanded his soldiers to fire on a vulnerable and unarmed crowd, killing almost 400 Indians. This incident made Gandhi even more determined to develop Satyagraha and to win independence through nonviolent resistance. Satyagraha is Hindi for insistence on truth. This notion was proposed by Gandhi to designate a determined but nonviolent resistance to evil. Gandhi's most prominent campaign was the Salt March held in 1930. It drew participants from cities, towns, and villages all across British India and gained India's freedom struggle worldwide attention and sympathy. The Salt March did not fulfill the ability to obtain Indian independence, and during the campaign, more than 90,000 Indians had been arrested. During the time, the British proclaimed it illegal for any Indian to manufacture salt without paying tax. This edict exemplified the basic injustice of imperial rule. Gandhi's political and ethical attributes made the Salt March one of his best campaigns. The protests began on March 12, 1930. Gandhi and 70 practitioners of Satyagraha left Gandhi's ashram at Sabarmati on foot. The march consisted of walking 240 miles to Dandi on the Gujarati seacoast. Gandhi said, "Ours is a holy war," during the trip. When reaching the coast, Gandhi broke the salt walls by picking up some sea salt from the beach. Doing so, he urged others to break the law as well and was arrested on May 4th. Previous Congress President Sarojini Naidu led a march of 2,500 nonviolent volunteers against the Dharasana salt works. This campaign's arrest statistics were the most substantial of numbers, coming from Bengal, the Gangetic Plains, and Punjab.
People who didn't know where India was, didn't know what the issues were. There was something about him that touched their lives.
The Mahatma Gandhi feel non-violence is difficult to carry unless you have some full conviction.
That he had to stay, he had to fight for the rights of his people and eventually for the rights of all black people.
The person who has influenced my life in terms of action more than anybody is Mahatma Gandhi.
And the whole philosophy of Gandhi and passive non-violent resistance. And I was so deeply moved by the message that I went away and bought several books on the Gandhian, on Gandhi and Gandhian technique. And at that point, I became deeply influenced by Gandhi.
We must continue to delve deeper into the philosophy of nonviolent resistance. There is something about this method that has power.
He taught his followers and peers that one person can make a change with nonviolence. His influence affected the variety of individuals that he met along the way, with many more beyond the borders of India. Gandhi's movements changed the world and history. His practices affected influential activists like Martin Luther King Jr. and peace enforcers such as Dalai Lama. Mahatma Gandhi used his voice and peaceful actions to change the world because he chose nonviolence as an approach to make amends with greater authorities. Mahatma Gandhi's beliefs and practices has influenced the ethics of people today. The legacy that he has left behind inspires great thinkers that you have the power to create the world that you want. We have a voice and opinion in what we do, and we are free to express it for morally good causes. Gandhi led anti-war movements with nonviolence and was able to make a change because of all the individuals that he has affected through the voice of truth and peace. He also gave the people of India motivation for independence and human rights. Mahatma Gandhi is a global symbol for nonviolence and peace.
For I can see that in the midst of death, life persists. In the midst of untruth, truth persists. In the midst of darkness, light persists. Hence I gather that God is life, truth, light. He is love.